me or whatever is left, your number one choice for checking the news once a week and listening to us whisper sweet nothings into your ears about hating rich people and other fun stuff, I guess. And tonight we're talking about universal basic income. I'm Dani.
And I'm Hunter.
And I really should have read the script beforehand. Let's just go into it.
I thought that was a fun, different intro than what we usually give people.
It is. It's that I should have just warned myself. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
So, what is UBI? Universal Basic Income, according to Investopedia, is a government program in which adult citizens regularly receive a set amount of money. Imagine Social Security, which our seniors receive, but for everyone over 18 years old. This amount of money could totally vary or have different factors that increase it. So that's UBI in like a nutshell.
Yeah, a really pretty nutshell.
Like in its most simplified terms. We're going to get into a lot of nitty gritty about UBI as like a concept and like the pros and cons of it. Yeah. What are like your initial like first thoughts?
I'm pro UBI, I think.
Okay, we're gonna see if that keeps true throughout this whole episode. So Dani is starting off the episode pro UBI. Yeah. Now, I am starting things off very UBI skeptical.
Okay, I can accept UBI skeptical.
I understand that there are some immediate benefits that we're going to get into, but I also understand that it's like a band-aid solution.
I mean, realistically, anything's going to be a band-aid solution under capitalism.
Except for revolution. But why don't you move to the next part?
Okay, so the goal really is to reduce poverty and potentially replace other need-based programs that require greater bureaucratic involvement, which we talked a little bit about last week in our housing episode. So while putting cash in people's hands is generally a nice way to handle these sorts of things, UBI replacing these programs instead of being added on top of them is a detriment to people in this country. I personally think it should be in addition to, not in spite of.
Yes. So that is also my stance on the topic. That is not the stance of a lot of the proponents of UBI. They see UBI as an opportunity to replace a lot of those programs and just do one generic, this is for everyone gets the same amount sort of program. It's not something that's meant to specifically target groups who are in need.
Which I get. Like I think UBI is super important. I think the universal part is the important part of all this. But because it's universal, I think we're still going to, like, unfortunately, there is still going to be a, like, economic hierarchies. Even what just gives our poverty level no longer is zero. It's going to be whatever the UBI would be our, like, new zero. I guess is how you would determine that. And like, let's say you're getting your rent subsidized through a voucher program and you get food stamps and
throwback to last week's episode on housing.
Yeah. It's twice now. 2 callbacks. So like there's just so many things that or like WIC benefits. There's just so much that you can have, and depending on like what the UBI is, that like, so it just depends on who you're talking to, depends on how much people get. If it's a lower amount, you might get more in your current benefits than you would through a UBI benefit. And also, this is like, you said earlier, it's 18 plus. What about like kids? Like kids get food stamps. Kids get WIC benefits. Like some of these benefits aren't in the parents' names. They're in the children's names. The parents are just the ones who are the executors.
Excellent points. I agree with just about everything that you said.
Sorry, I got in a roll and I just had to keep going. Still pro UBI. A small thing, but like I think It's because I'm always thinking as in addition to, not in spite of.
So when you set an arbitrary number for UBI, we're going to talk about the most common arbitrary number that's been spoken about.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid saying any.
Yeah. You sort of run into situations where if you're receiving more benefits already than what the suggested UBI would be, you're losing out if they replace your other benefits with whatever the UBI is.
Yeah.
So let's look back in time a little bit to the 2020 primary election.
Boo.
Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang
has become a disappointment.
True. Sorry, Andrew. We would definitely still talk to you, though.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Andrew, come on the podcast.
He made UBI a core part of his platform. Probably like the most famous part of his platform.
I think
he was like the UBI guy.
He was the UBI guy. I remember like just looking like, oh, UBI. He's like Andrew Yang's thing. I was like, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, so he was advocating the freedom dividend is what he called it. Nice catchy name to ensnare conservatives. Like, well, I can't disagree with the freedom dividend.
Yeah, who's going to argue about freedoms?
So I get it from that angle. It does sound kind of silly, though. But not as silly as what someone else called them in their proposals later on that we'll talk about.
Okay.
But Yang's plan would have costed about 50% of the proposed federal budget in the year 2020. So that's a lot of money, but...
Ooh, 50%.
Yeah, it's expensive, this is way bigger in scale than...
But again, we could also just take from our military budget, so like...
Well, also, we could get into the nitty-gritty about modern monetary theory and how money is
Not again.
made up.
No, I can't. We cannot do this again. We did this all day yesterday.
But we didn't do it on the show.
This is how you know we actually enjoy this. We talked about this off show.
We write entire papers about this for our economics class. But yeah, so that's kind of what Andrew Yang was all about. $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. Which is not something that people can live off of comfortably at all.
But it's not something to sneeze at either.
No. $12,000 a year would make a sizable difference in most people's lives.
Would take out so much debt.
Yeah. Imagine even if you're comfortable or at least skating by right now, if you were able to dedicate $1,000 every month to taking care of other things, paying off debt, anything else,
saving for a home.
Imagine having a down payment for a house after like
2 years.
6 months to a year. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, depending on how nice of a house you're trying to get.
Well, I was just thinking about the chart I saw earlier today where it said the average down payment in Maryland is like 25.
3% has gone out the window. You need way more than 3% nowadays.
It's 3.5% on an FHA loan. If you're going with the standard loan, you're going to get 20%. I have so much housing information in my head on if you want to buy a house. So much.
Good to keep in mind.
Random tangent. Sorry, guys.
You could tell that we're millennials and we're trying to get housing eventually. Dani will argue that she's Gen Z when it's convenient for her.
I was gonna start arguing. I was like, I'm not gonna do it because he's gonna make fun of me. But if he's already did it, I'm technically Gen Z.
I will definitely make fun of you.
He's already started, so I'm technically Gen Z.
Whatever.
Whatever. Whatever.
Whatever is left.
Okay.
So, any other thoughts about Yang's proposal?
I'm glad that I am happy. Try to make sure that
choose your words very carefully.
I am trying to. I'm trying. It takes that long? Yes. Yang did a great thing for UBI, and that's really putting it in the forefront of the American people and have people realize this is an option. This is something we can do. And that's where he stopped.
I remember having a lot of feelings about it at the time, thinking that, wow, this would make such a huge impact in my life. And it's very true. It would.
It still would make a great impact.
I was upset that more of the candidates didn't adopt this policy position. I remember being upset that Bernie Sanders didn't take on some kind of UBI into his proposals. he had a universal jobs guarantee and some other cool stuff instead of that. There was an interesting alternative that I never really got into, like the nitty gritty of like why one would be better than the other, I guess. But maybe we'll touch on some of that by the end of this episode.
Maybe.
Either way, I think it was super cool that you brought UBI into
100%.
into the conversation. I think it's something that's definitely worth talking about.
It's me. Yeah. But UBI has gained interest since, mostly as a proposal to ensure a certain quality of life, alongside the rise of AI and automation. More and more jobs are getting automated. Quite literally, the other day, our producer was complaining about calling and having a machine answer and then having a machine call him back, and it's just things like that. So people simply do not need to work as many hours, but instead of people working that many hours, they're earning less. And because they're not working, a UBI is intended to cover the rest of the slack. So instead of having a full-time job, you can have a part-time job, and then UBI is just like, I got you, bro. It's like gap insurance.
Gap insurance for people's livelihood.
Yeah, it's a bad way.
It's a decent way to look at it, I guess. Yeah, so you work less hours in the current system. You don't get paid for working less hours. They cut your hours, and you get nothing to show for it.
Assuming you're like hourly.
Yeah.
But that's where most of these jobs are going, like, are starting to be cut. Not like, this is not where it's going to end, but these hourly jobs are the ones that are affected first.
I know if you applied the Yang's plan of $12,000 a year, that's the equivalent for a lot of people of taking off one day of work every week.
Ooh. Every 3-day weekend, midweek break.
For the very poorest Americans, it's like 2 or 3 days off a week.
Oof.
Yeah. So that's a lot more time off that if you aren't working, that you're still kind of getting compensated for.
Which is nice. Like just because you're not working doesn't mean you're not adding value. You're existing, you know what you can do on those days off. You can actually get those doctor's appointments or go shopping for the appointments. That's how you know you're adult. You're like, appointment. You can try that new creative hobby you've been wanting to do but couldn't find the time because you work all day and you have to come home and clean and cook.
Reminds me of this really cool guy named Karl Marx and him talking about leisure. But we can talk about that now. I can go right into that one.
Go into that smooth segue.
A 2019 Brookings Institute report speculated that up to 25% of the jobs in the U.S. were susceptible to automation. So automation was also a concern for Karl Marx, who understood, even hundreds of years ago, well, it's like 150, that one of the benefits of capitalism was a highly specified mode of production. That one day, machines would be able to perform instead of the workers. He saw it as a benefit, though, understanding that this efficiency would free up time for the workers for leisurely activities. Leisurely activities. What are those? Marx was hopeful, though, that by the time that this came about, the proletariat would be ready for revolution against the bourgeoisie, and not just have their hours cut and be forced into poverty and destitution instead of, having leisure time, so that their corporate overlords could make more money. Got definitely a little commie for you guys there, but
a little. When Marx was a optimist out of.
I mean, it's kind of the idea that this is the end result of capitalism, is all this, and it's true to a point. We're seeing that now, but how it's playing out isn't perhaps going as smoothly as he would have anticipated.
Yeah, because it's becoming like it's no longer like regular capitalism. It's like it's cannibal capitalism.
Cannibal capitalism.
Yeah, like that's something I heard someone say. This is like something I'm making out of my behind. It's because the way that things are working is, it's not just inflation, it's shrinkflation that's affecting it. So you may be paying the same price, but you're not getting the same quality or quantity. Like, so yeah, these corporations are seeing record highs while, the rest of us are struggling to make it by because, and realistically, low wages, low everything usually means a recession. But when in 2020, it just didn't happen like that because they were able to reduce the amount of things and keep the same price or even increase it, which is the worst. When like you're gonna increase the price and give me less, like, take me out to dinner first before you fuck me on both ends.
All right, that is our F-bomb for the night, ladies and gentlemen. Love to listen to it. Thank you very much.
I think it was a perfectly used one.
Go ahead and move on to the next part.
Okay. You don't have anything else to add? You're just gonna...
No, just letting that one marinate.
Okay. BI becomes necessary, though, in late-stage capitalist society, when wages have been suppressed to the point of workers not being able to afford commodities like rent or food. It affects the profits of major industries, like restaurants who are constant closing, or like these big box chains who are constant closing, or all these tech layoffs we're seeing.
Yeah. It's soon going to affect entertainment, like movie theaters. They're seeing less people come through the doors. A lot of those are closing down.
No one wants to pay $20 for a medium bucket of popcorn.
Theme parks, I'm sure, are seeing less and less people be able to afford to come through their doors also. So anything that seems like a luxury, anything that's like service industry related, they're going to see probably the biggest hit from people having less spending money.
100%. And like I've seen this article where it was like, it's always millennials or Gen Zs. They're like, they're eating out less. And then like, there's another one that's like, they're not buying as many groceries. And everyone's like, which one is it? It's like, it's both. They're starving.
Millennials are killing Applebee's and Chili's.
Yeah, well.
And IHOP.
Ugh.
And Denny's and the rest of every single restaurant that's out there.
Fast casual restaurant. So like, that's like the type of restaurant.
I mean, the gang does not go out to eat nearly as much as we used to. So, it makes sense. I see it.
Yeah.
See examples of this in my everyday life.
But
this is real.
This is happening.
Rip. Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Throwback.
That teacher's such a G for that.
Gosh. Oh no, we've killed Danny. Not again. But yeah, companies are going to get pissed off when people can't afford to buy their products anymore. Those big expensive TVs and computers and some cars and cell phones.
Some people won't be able to afford to work. Like, let's be honest at this point. There are already people some people are so poor already that they're not able to afford to work, and that's just going to extend further.
Yeah. The purpose of UBI is to reform capitalism and sustain it. It does not challenge capitalism. It does, though, allow workers to have a little bit more bargaining power in the workplace since their entire income is not coming directly from their jobs. This could lead to expanded union membership and workers' rights. Possibly.
I think it also makes it easier for you not to get taken advantage at work because, like, you have a guaranteed income, so you're not worried about, like, your boss being like, do this or you're fired. I'd be like, okay, find someone else to work this shitty minimum wage job.
I've been saving up the last 6 months of my UBI, and I have a little bit of a buffer now.
It'll make renting easier because then, like, especially when you're
Assuming rent doesn't get inflated to all hell, like, it is known to do. Immediately, as soon
throwback.
as UBI gets announced, every landlord ups their rent by $1,000 a month. I could see it.
I could see it. I feel like
I hate it. It should be illegal
I was gonna say, like, I'm sure there's ways that we could prevent it.
by threatening your landlord. That's not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer.
We are definitely not lawyers, and we are not giving you legal advice.
Never trust us for legal advice.
Legal suggestions, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about how UBI is like the Band-Aid for capitalism.
I hated the way that it was like, it sustains capitalism. I'm like, ugh.
It does. It really does. Like, people are going to be placated by this extra 12 grand a year, or whatever the UBI is set to, and they're going to be a little bit more comfortable for a little while longer. The frustration, the rage, the vulnerability that people feel economically in this current system, in the current day that we live in, gets deflated when people are made a little bit more comfortable because of the UBI. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. What if it's the opposite? What if giving people this UBI makes them a little bit more willing and able to go out and organize and be activists because they're a little less scared of, like, you don't think that single mom wants to go out and do something about her neighborhood that isn't super safe, but that she cares about, that she's raising her kids. She wants to, but if she's working 2-3 jobs to get by, she can't volunteer and be an activist in her community. But you know what UBI does? It releases that stress on her. It's things like I'm normally the pessimist here. You're the one who's supposed to be like, no, they didn't think about all these positives. Not me. I'm not supposed to be the positive one in this.
I mean, you're the one who is a proponent of UBI.
That's true. So I am trying to be the positive. I have to be the positive one in this because I do think it'll work out, because I think it allows people to be more involved. I think it releases $1,000 worth of stress off of them. It gives them the ability to probably save if they're not thinking of their income as like, oh,
as much as we're using Andrew Yang's like model,
1,000,
we should probably, like, I don't know.
I was gonna ask you what you would choose as a nice rate, like what your idea is for like a perfect UBI.
Gotcha. Well, we talked about this a little bit before the show.
We do prep and we have conversations before the show.
And I would have it set to the median income in the United States.
Wasn't that like $15 an hour?
So,
like it was 31,000 that you said originally.
That was a couple of years back. But I've gotten some like different numbers from different sources, and it's a little bit confusing. But yeah, a quick like top of the Google search says that the median income across the country in 2024 is $44,000 and $44,225.
It's like solidly middle class.
And if we were to take that and divide it by 12, that's $3,685 a month. That is what I would make UBI. Make it so that everyone is provided with a median income. That is a ton of money.
That is, like I said, solidly middle class.
That is a ton of money. And that would be probably more than our national budget by itself.
Yeah, but at that point, we're stimulating the economy. Oh my god.
I mean, we would be stimulating the economy.
I know, but I just like I'm starting to feel like a capitalist sellout.
I mean, if the shoe fits,
It
Danny.
doesn't. It doesn't.
But yeah, it's a lot of money.
So
of course,
much.
I would do it. I would not have my universal basic income be universal. There's some people who just don't need that money.
I think there is a cap. I think our universal basic income is like capped at a point. I think our caps are going to be different.
Yeah, and we haven't put a lot of this. We don't have policy proposals here. Danny asking me for that number is, while a policy proposal, not a very well thought out one.
What is your cap?
That is a tough question. I think it should be like a sliding scale. Like the more money you make, the less and less of that UBI you get.
Like our tax system?
Like our tax system. So I don't know. Obviously, if you don't have any income, you get the whole $44,225. If you have, I don't know, billions of dollars of income every year, then you probably don't need any of that.
Okay, I found a way that technically the reason billionaires and millionaires can pay so little in taxes is because they don't have income. They don't report income.
True, which
so
is
like
dumb.
The people we wouldn't want to get it end up qualifying.
They wouldn't in my system because I would close all those loopholes and do a whole bunch of other kinds of taxes.
Okay, that's true. That's true. This is your system where I was gonna say
I will tax the billionaires out of existence.
Okay, fair. I think my max. I think this is gonna. Your sliding scale sounds cool and all, but I'm just be like, you make over 500,000, you get no money. You make under.
So the people that are making $500,000, how much money do they get?
I said none.
So 400,099.
They get the hold out.
Wow. So just by making 499,000,
yeah, I know
543,000.
Yeah, because I
make it make sense.
Okay, do you want it to be 250? I could make it 250, but I just don't I want it to be like you get it until you don't.
I mean, interesting.
That's my opinion. Okay, let me rephrase that. I feel like once you hit 120, that's when it decreases.
That's
120 is like upper middle class.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of upper middle class. So you're still technically middle class.
Depending on where you live.
We're looking nationally, so this is a national statement.
Yeah, I mean, we could break it down and come up with some more solid policy.
This was something like we are coming up on the spot, so like yeah, mine isn't still thought out, but I don't like the idea of like a full sliding like. I like the idea of like you get to a certain point and then that's when it starts decreasing.
Yeah, I can see why you would want a clear-cut system like that. I feel like it really incentivizes people to stay at whatever that line is and not go above it, just so they can get an extra $44,000 a year.
Yeah, but is $44,000 a year worth $100,000 a year?
It is to people who aren't going to make that extra $100,000 a year. But we are not economists.
No.
But that was a cool thought experiment. Thank you for bringing that one.
Of course. So our favorite I gotta stop using
our favorite.
I really gotta stop using the word favorite. I think that
Your favorite?
No, not my favorite. I was gonna say corporate Democrat.
That doesn't narrow it down. We're talking about Joe Biden, Dean Phillips.
That really is our favorite. Let's be honest here. We love Dean Phillips on this show.
Not because of who he is as a person. No.
He's just
pretty yikes takes, by the way.
AI.
If Dean Phillips wants to come onto our show, we could talk to him too.
Yes, we just love an AI generated person.
You're gonna get him mad at us. No, we've already said that like 6 times.
Almost
already.
every time we bring it up, I bring up that statement. That is why
talk about
Okay, but our favorite female corporate Democrat. I think that narrows it down a little bit. Hillary Clinton. So
just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
So if we want to go back to 2016, back when she thought she had a chance.
She had a chance. She did. It was a close election. Do you forget that?
I know it was a really close election.
She won the popular vote.
I was gonna say she won the popular vote, and it's aggravating because the only time someone loses who wins the popular vote but loses the election, it only works in the favor of Republicans. The 2 times it's happened. I think it's 2 times. It might have been 3. It's happened twice in our lifetime.
True.
Which is crazy. But Hillary Clinton was tempted to include a version of UBI in her 2016 presidential campaign. So she had some pretty wonderful slogans like Alaska for America and capitalism where everyone gets a share. Do you think adopting the idea would have pushed her to actually winning?
I think that she was just a very flawed human being and candidate.
Is she still alive?
I think she is a very flawed human being and was a very flawed candidate.
We're not trying to put that juju out there on Hillary Clinton.
But
we love a good but.
I think that if she had embraced a UBI system and it was like a actually well thought through plan, that might have gotten her a few more of those Bernie or bust people. Maybe.
Would it have gotten you?
I have no idea. I don't know. I was one of those people.
That's why I asked. I was like, would it I
was definitely a Bernie or bust guy.
We also live in a very blue state, so
we do. So our votes barely matter. But yeah, I don't know. It would have been a reason to vote for her. And no, there were enough reasons. She was definitely the better candidate.
Oh, 100%.
No one here is doubting that. Better than Donald Trump.
No one in this pod is thinking that, is arguing that. Not arguing that. Whatever.
But yeah, I don't know. That would have been a serious, interesting and cool thing. And if she had popularized that idea even before Yang came out and did it, that would have been something people would have talked about.
Oh, 100%. But do you think it would have gotten popular if she had done it?
That is a tough question.
Because I think
I know there were a bunch of close states. I'm not sure exactly which ones were super close. I'm sure the regular toss-up ones That's not what I think you're talking about there.
Oh, no.
But I'm sure your Pennsylvania, your Michigan, your Wisconsin,
Florida, probably.
Florida's a very red state. Who are we
Well,
kidding?
no. Now it's a red state.
North
Back in
Carolina, you know.
2016, no, I know it was very red. You were thinking about how politics are now, but 2016, Florida was very solidly a swing state. 1%.
It was pretty close in Florida.
Yeah, Florida historically up until 2020 was a swing state.
Yeah, Wisconsin was differing by less than 0.7 of a percentage point.
A lot of his wins in these swing states.
Michigan by 0.3 of a percentage point.
Less than 1%.
Pennsylvania also by 0.7.
Yeah,
Yeah, close.
It's
close
it.
races.
And the way that Texas is slowly becoming purple is the way Florida is becoming red. It was a purple state.
Yeah, same way Ohio's been red for a few elections now. But yeah, there were a couple of close states, and I think if she'd come out with something that was transformative. I know thinking about Hillary Clinton coming out with a transformative economic policy is sort of hilarious, but also fascinating, which is why I wanted to talk about it.
No, it's a fair.
I think it might have pulled some people out that were very skeptical about her. Be like, maybe she's trying to put some money in my pocket.
You just say you.
I still don't know if it would have worked for me.
The
way she treated Bernie Sanders.
Your man Bernie, you could have said it.
The way she treated Bernie Sanders.
He wanted to say my man Bernie Sanders. I know it because
the way she treated Grandpa wasn't okay.
But 2016 was really when you got into
yeah,
politics too. This is when you started
Yeah, that was the year or 2015.
2015, 2016. Yeah, that election.
That was
Bernie really helped you. You were like this old Jewish dude. I'm rocking with him.
He was a vibe.
He was a vibe.
And it's a real shame that even here in 2024, he's still one of the better politicians we have out there.
Yeah.
But we could do a deep dive. We will do a deep dive.
We will?
On Bernie Sanders at some point.
Okay.
And the rest of the progressives and.
It's not on our calendar, but I could put it on our calendar.
I think it would be a good and fruitful conversation.
I think it would be
healing.
Heartbreaking.
It'll be healing, therapeutic.
Our roles are back to normal. Him being the optimist, me being the pessimist. Everything is right in the world.
All right, so let's talk about conclusions here.
I'm still pro UBI.
Still pro UBI.
But less capitalistic pro UBI.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I still want it to not replace. I want it to with all those stipulations. I don't want it to replace already
existing programs.
I want our programs to stay. I like the idea of making a cap and maybe having a slide once you're nearing the cap you start slowing down so it's not a harsh reality change. Even though if you're making 250, do you really need that extra 44,000 a year?
Yeah, maybe after every $50,000 that you make, you take off a quarter of that UBI money.
That's a good
something like that.
Yeah. And just, make it so that people have that leisure. I think the pros outweigh the capitalistic cons.
I think that those capitalistic cons are still going to be there.
Yeah, but
UBI, it is a Band-Aid. It does make living in a late stage capitalist society less shitty.
Yeah, and I think that's at the end of the day, that's what I care about. I care about people and their comfort, and I want people to be able to like not die.
And having a less terrible time in life is a generally good thing.
I forgot to mention this earlier, but you know what the another positive of UBI is?
Let's hear it.
Children get to stay with their parents. The amount that some parents need to be able to keep their children is so minuscule that even the 1,000 that Andrew Yang suggested would be enough to reduce the amount of children in our foster care system. Like, I think that's enough reason.
Do you remember those really cool child tax credits that the Biden administration was giving out at the start of his presidency?
Yeah. That was probably like the COVID relief.
Yeah, well, it really sucked when that stopped happening and the money just dried up and went poof. And no one ever continued the program, even though it was really popular.
There was an attempt to made.
But they didn't do it.
Yeah, well. The attempt was made. That's what they'll say.
So I agree with everything that you said. All that's really important. It's also important to consider that all of these good things that people are able to do under UBI are possible in a post-capitalistic society.
Yeah, but I think the UBI is a good transition. It's a good bridge. It's a good starting bridge. Like, I think you get people comfortable with it, and then, you know.
I think that UBI is a bridge, but it's a drawbridge that the rich will lift up when they don't want anyone else to pass over it.
Yeah, but well, I'll say we won't let the rich touch it, and I'm like, they buy our. This is NASCAR.
They run our society.
This is NASCAR politics. They are sponsoring each president, and each person. Well, not each person. That's why some politicians don't take corporate PAC money.
Yes, I would like to see an end to capitalism. Not hiding that one.
No.
And I think that
wrote a whole paper on it.
UBI program would elongate the wait time.
Are you saying that UBI is the life support of capitalism?
Yes.
Ooh, UBI. That's a really nice phrasing.
It's something that the ultra rich don't want to do, but they see it as the lesser evil. It's funny when they have to make a lesser evil choice.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, let's just give people money so they can continue to spend money.
Why, Gregory, why is my bank account so low? Well, no one could buy things anymore. Well, give them money to buy things.
Basically. Yes. That's what it's coming down to. That is UBI in a nutshell.
Sticking some rich dude picking up the phone and calling
Gregory.
Is there a guy named Gregory in Congress? I need one person to be named Gregory. Like,
there's probably a bunch of Gregs.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't. If your name is Greg and you work in Congress, please come on to our show. We have questions for you.
Like, who's buying you?
Dang. It's probably APAC though, if we're being honest.
Yeah. That's like that's twice. This is the second week in a row that I called out a politician for being bought. Last week on our Wake Up Wednesday, it was
go listen to that too.
Throwback. We've been throwing back to last week a lot this episode.
Can we make UBI better?
Or 2 weeks ago. Can we make UBI better?
Obviously, introducing it alongside other programs makes it better. Not replacing them with UBI makes UBI better. Giving people a lot of money makes UBI better.
Oh, yeah. But I'm always pro a lot of money.
I think that giving people extra leisure time and more bargaining power against their employers is a positive.
Giving people time to be able to save for that down payment to an apartment or a house.
I think that although UBI does not challenge capitalism and it is a life support for it, the benefits of introducing a universal basic income program might be worth it anyway. It's just not going to create the change. We have to create the change. And we have to use UBI as an opportunity to do it.
We have to be the change we want to see in the world.
We have to be the change that we want to see in the world. The revolution starts with you.
The revolution is imminent.
Do you know something I don't, Danny?
Hamilton lyrics randomly.
Oh, gosh. Anything but that tonight.
I already said it. And you missed it.
Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add about UBI?
I'm just thinking about how often that would have been really useful.
An extra $1,000 or $3,000?
Yeah.
Every day of my life, actually. That sounds really nice all the time.
Well, remember. Actually, Andrew Yang said it was 18 plus.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
For adults? Yeah.
Like only adults?
Well, if you start counting children, this gets much, much more expensive. And not to mention that a lot of the children's money are just going to get spent by their parents.
Yeah, but how do I want to say this?
Do you think that families should just get more UBI in general?
Yes, I think that's.
I mean, okay.
But like, I'm not saying
they kind of already are, right? So if you have two adults in a family,
you're making assumptions, but okay.
No, like if you have two adults in a family in one home, or maybe grandma or grandpa lives with you, or you have a child that's over 18 that still lives in your household. That is a lot of money coming into your household.
But okay, what if? Oh, okay. These are there's a few questions I have that I want to add. Okay, but let's say single mother. But like, I'm not saying that the child gets the same amount. And I'm not saying that it's the same amount for. Okay, let's say. I'm not counting. I don't care if both parents are together. I don't care. But this is the primary caregivers. First child or only child. Okay. They get like half the amount. The second child gets like we scale down. It's like maybe 75%, then 50, then 25, then that's it. So that like you're not.
Okay, Danny, but who is paying for all of this?
Our military budget.
This is way bigger than our military budget.
I don't think it's that much bigger than our. I don't think it's that big.
If Yang's $1,200 or $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year for every adult was like half of our budget.
Okay.
Then
money isn't real.
Money is mostly not real.
We'll just print more. Like that's what we do. But the other thing I wanted to ask is this like Social Security where you get survivalist benefits and like. Does this stop once you get Social Security?
These are excellent questions that I think would be completely up to debate based on who's implementing this policy.
Yeah, I just like these are thoughts that I think are important to have before implementing anything like this.
Of course.
And it's just like you asked for final opinion and final thoughts, and like these are the thoughts that are my final ones, and I'm like, okay, like
someone smarter than us should put more thought into this and come up with a real, honest proposal.
Is this why UBI will never work? Is because there's just too many variables?
It's mostly because there's not enough political will for it. But there are a lot of variables, and coming up with a system that makes everyone feel included but compensated fairly and equitably is going to be the challenge. And that's all I've got on the topic.
Okay. Well, you've heard my final thoughts, or technically final questions.
All right. I think that's all for us.
Yeah.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Dani.
Have a good night, folks.